Hello, this is Joris Peels, and this is another edition of 3D Printing News Unpeeled. And yeah, I'd like to welcome you today. And we have 5 news stories for you today to run down. And the first one concerns 3D printing earnings. So we're seeing a lot of earnings calls. It's kind of basically earnings season. Overall, given all the uncertainties in the economy and the broader economic outlook, macroeconomic outlook, I think it's been pretty solid, actually, really solid. Desktop Metal saw earnings triple to 57 million this quarter. Velo is up 160% year on year. Nano Dimension went from 800 grand and to 11 million. Stratasys brought in revenue of 166 million. That's about 20 million more than did the same quarter last year on year again. Materialize is up 15% year on year. Xometry is up 89% year on year. 3D Systems is kind of like a sour note, I guess. It's down 13% from a year ago. But on the whole, we're seeing a picture that's very robust given the circumstances. Now, are these after effects from a post-COVID kind of spending reinitiation on projects that were stalled and things before? I think for a lot of things, this is the case. We need to be careful of the fact that certain companies also we're very careful in their outlook. So their outlooks aren't as optimistic as they'd like to really say right now. And that could also just be a bit of caution because things are weird. It's hard to predict the future now, or even more difficult than it was a couple of years ago, with so many things going on. Generally, I think also 3D Systems missing estimates a bit and being a bit lower. Given the fact that they're doing this whole pivot towards buyer printing, medical 3D printing is not that unnatural. At the same time, they sold their service business, so that just leaves them out a bunch of revenue, and also leaves them out. We're seeing it materialize in other companies that this kind of service business rebounded very quickly for a lot of people as well. Also, the example is Xometry. So I think they missed out on that jump because they sold their service business before already, and they missed out on a chunk of revenue just because of that sale passed on as well. So that is not necessarily all bad, but it does point to a structural issue that 3D Systems may have, is that they have fantastical, amazing future earnings in the businesses they're buying into in medical, but they need something to maybe kind of like propel them forward as well. So with the obvious thing is like, what would be the perfect fit for 3D Systems? Essentially, in the 3D printing world, it would be Materialize. Of course, I think for a lot of people, Materialize is a crown jewel, and they have an absolute lock on the 3D printing software market. They have a lot of medical assets that are generating a lot of cash right now. It's a very cash-rich company. It's very rude health, very good culture, very wonderful place generally to work and be. So that would be a really perfect complement for 3D Systems. But then again, yeah, it's been like this for years, I think. 3D Systems have chased them for years as well. So I'm pretty sure Material is very independent minded. But just generally, we're seeing a robust growth. The SPACs had a kind of like a little bit of a meltdown over the past couple of years, and now we're seeing it's a good picture for us to be delivering to the world and talking about. There's another news item that is really something that I was like thinking about, and I brought it back up because it came up again in conversation. And this is basically this Kurtz Ersa and multilaser. So a couple of weeks ago, there was an announcement. We put it in a news brief. It didn't really get widely noticed anywhere, and it's Kurtz Ersa, which is is a machine building company that started in 1779. It's currently being run by the 7th generation of the family that started it. And a while ago, they make lots of industrial type machines. They're really a machine builder, very high end kind of production machines in some areas. And they bought Laser Metal Innovations, and they were making what we call push button metal printers. So that's like a much cheaper, I think. Much cheaper, much easier to operate in an office environment. They have cartridges for metal powder. They could be kind of just printers that are much more accessible, either because they redesigned the motion stage to work with cheaper optics and stuff like this, or because they're using a kind of a cheaper technology. So these systems really have the ability to really democratize the 3D printing industrial production of metals. So that's just not enough for these guys because they started the flying ray. So I read this and I did not necessarily appreciate enough at the time how important this was. So now they've come up with this flying ray system. This is an 8-arm, 8 laser system with a build rate of 500 cubic centimeters an hour. It's got a modular design. Now, what does that mean? That means that you can really decide which modules to include or not. So it's a high degree of customization for them. That's fairly cost effective, and also it would be that it's easier to integrate within kind of like manufacturing type setups. Um, so we're seeing that not only do the laser wars involve SLM Solutions and AOS and all these larger, more established firms, but at the same time, what we're seeing is that relative newcomers to 3D printing are also doing this. Now, part of the reason of this, but also generally, this is I think is something to be of note that somebody would go so quickly to having an 8 laser system, given the complexities of metal additive and powder bed fusion in particular. Now, what's also remarkable is the fact this is something that is a result, direct or indirect. We can talk about that, but it's a result definitely of ScanLab. So ScanLab is a company that through its FiberSys multi-head lasers makes optics available that'll let you do multi-laser. I don't know if Kurt Erso is using this, but what the ScanLab did do is make that multi-laser architecture available on the market. So they made it much more accessible. They really told people about that this was an accessible future for many people. What's also salient detail is that the ScanLab is impartially owned by the Lunger family, the same people that own EOS. And what I said about this in an article in 2021 is I once described competing in powder bed fusion to being an audience member in a chess game that Hans Langer is playing with himself. And it looks like Hans is in the mood for hard mode. So this is kind of what we're seeing here is that EOS has this multi-laser systems, which then make it more likely that competitors will use multi-laser. Generally, I would assume the logic here would be that anything that works for the light-based, laser-based technologies, as opposed to being like working for inkjet or something like that, is good for EOS and the AOS ecosystem generally. But I thought that was a interesting move. It's also people should realize that companies like Xeon Bright Laser or BLT, um, whom you may not know this, they have 200 machines making orthopedic implants at their factory. But they're also making these really large systems, as is E Plus and Farsoon and these kind of companies. So there's more competitors in the space than maybe you would think. That's the number 4 news item. Number 3 is Givenchy 3D print sunglasses. So for the spring summer collection 2023, Give Cut sunglasses are on the market. They're 450 euros, which is about $450 now. So pricey pair of shades, I guess. They're made in nylon. It says they're 100% made in nylon. So that doesn't mean powder bed fusion, I would assume. MGF maybe, I don't know. So I originally, when I read the article, okay, Givenchy, French company, they're making luxury goods, they're making something. I thought it would be AirPro. AirPro is a company that makes 1 million Chanel mascara brushes a month. I thought that would be the logical partner. Then I looked a little bit deeper in this, and the glasses are made by Telios. Telios is actually a part of LVMH, one of the largest luxury group in the world, which also owns Givenchy. So typically, sunglasses are made by companies like Safilo or Luxottica. And then the brand just outsources the production and in some cases even the design and development of these sunglasses and brands to a company like Luxottica or Safilo. And in this case, what Telios has done is it's implemented its own kind of luxury goods sunglasses manufacturing company. Now, what's also notable is that they say they make everything in Italy, including these glasses. So these are made in Italy. So they're not made by AirPro. So who's making them? So that was very interesting to me. Is it Beamit? Right, or Reg maybe, or is it like them doing production themselves? So I think this is notable because if Telios is doing this production themselves, if they're doing this in-house, and if they're mastering this technology, just like Hoya is trying to do, just like Materialize has done before, just like in eyewear, Hoya and Materialize and eyewear, just like a couple of specific startups in 3D printing, then this could be very impactful because it would mean that LVMH will be introducing 3D printed sunglasses to many more brands, such as Louis Vuitton and other brands that it owns. They look to be finished maybe by Cypress, but it might be somebody else, like AMT or somebody else. But It looks like it's Cypress finishing, but that's just a bit of a guess on my part. Um, I'm following this, and this is interesting because I'm so bullish on the use of 3D printing in luxury goods. I'm seeing so many examples in luxury goods, and I'm not 100% convinced of the need for 3D printed sunglasses or the utility. But I do have a pair of King's Children sunglasses that are 3D printed. I really love them, and they're really comfortable. So I can just see it. It works as a product. I just don't know if the extra utility is there. But in a high-end luxury environment, the idea of being really fast to market and capturing people's attention, and also having limited production runs and limited goods that are dropped and maybe only available to some people, that kind of thing really is a very profitable thing for them to do. So I think that to me is the logic for a luxury goods business to adopt this technology without the waste and with the startup costs and stuff is to me very interesting with this small batch production, fast seasonal changes, and limited edition goods. So I'm really very bullish on 3D printing luxury goods. I'm seeing a lot of stuff emerge as well. Another thing that's happening is news item number 2 is University of Maine and Oak Ridge National Labs work on construction composites. Small news item. We caught it as a kind of like we put it in a summary. And what is happening is in these large scale polymer construction, right? Like think Thermwood or Cincinnati or Ingersoll Rand, all these really, really big machines. We're going to be making polymer large scale structures. Now, it's either freestanding structures for whatever reason, or houses maybe, or formwork, much more likely, right? Boat hulls, components for military vehicles, components for drones and stuff like that, aerospace tooling. And several of these markets are very, you know, really, care about the environment. And other markets may want to recycle this. Imagine you're printing formwork and you have to then get rid of this tooling, right? Maybe you can recycle it, turn it into new material. That would be really great. Maybe, right now, a lot of these things are fiber loaded, and these fibers are very unsustainable usually. And also really difficult to discuss. These composite materials are really difficult to recycle. So the idea that someone is working on making these materials much more cost effective and much more environmentally effective, to me is a very good idea. And apart from this being like a cute heal the world kind of project, it also could be a huge market. I think what they're doing now is they're making sawdust and other building construction material waste into a flour-like kind of substance, and then they're pelletizing it. And that also means that maybe a larger kind of group, but not only these really big construction printers, but also Juggerbolt and other granulate extrusion systems could be using this material. Um, and the next step for the team is to work on weatherproof type of outdoor structures. But I think even if they wouldn't make that work, then for a lot of structures, this could really make sense at a smaller scale as well. Now, the number one news for today is the University of Virginia is making a work cell for automated drone production. So this is again tiny news item, but I think big implications. Not widely covered. So there's a design team consisting of 9 people at the University of Virginia. They're part of the Dreams Lab there, and they got $75,000 in funding from the NASA University Senate Research Committee grant competition. No idea what that is, to be perfectly honest. But what they're doing is exciting because they're making a robotic work cell, and this robotic work cell is meant to autonomously 3D print and then produce an entire working drone. So all of the components have to be made, and all of the components have to be assembled, and out flies essentially, or maybe drives or whatever, a working drone. So producing all of the individual parts of that drone, and then creating a working final product is the idea. And then for 75 grand, it doesn't seem like it's enough money for these guys, but to do this. But okay, now why is this relevant? We're undergoing kind of a period of drone wars. I've been writing about the crowdsourcing of war and drone wars and drone swarms since around 2009. I did work on it back then as well. I've been speaking about it since about 2011 and 2016. I spoke about this, and it's a topic that's very important to me because the idea that I talked about then is the idea, on the one hand, if we can automatically produce drones and iterate them through either crowdsourcing war or getting smart software to improve those designs, then our drones of our side, let's say the one we're doing it, could keep getting better. They could be improved according to tactics. right? They can be improved according to the battlefield situation. They can be improved according to a type of offensive or a type of plan, right? You could make new drones. The other guys are getting bigger bunkers. You could make heavier drones to try to carry more ordnance, for example, right? There's a new their drones are faster than yours. You could make your drones more maneuverable, right? You could iteratively every day make new drones and improve them, and that would really change things. So if we're evenly matched, and the two of us are fighting, and I keep improving my kit, eventually I'm going to win. All of the things being equal, and that's a very very powerful thing because that means you can build a unique advantage or an unequal advantage for your side as opposed to the other one. Um, so uh, that to me is a very impactful thing. Think about something like a carrier group, right? The kind of one of the most powerful weapons on Earth. It's a multi-billion-dollar thing with thousands of people working on it. It's a really prestigious thing as well. But imagine you sent 5,000 drones in 1 minute at that target, right? And then it becomes a target, right, from all sides simultaneously. Right? And at one point, this carrier will have defenses, right? That will have goalkeeper like products that could put out a lot of lead to create essentially a wall of lead for that thing. They'll have missiles to bring down things. But at one point, the carrier simply will not have enough ammunition, will not have enough ammunition available at that moment to bring down these things. They will not have the radars available to target all these drones. And if you then, the next minute, send another 5,000 drones down to do this, they're going to be overwhelmed. And that's with every weapon system at one point has a saturation point, which would mean that you can overwhelm even the most powerful and expensive weapon systems this world has. So that, I think is very significant. I think we should pay attention to this. We're also seeing the huge importance of drones in informal conflicts around the world, the importance of it in Ukraine, and also the importance of it, the decisive role they played in Nagorno-Karabakh. So that's an outsized influence for us. So do pay attention to that. Now, thank you so much for listening. That was the news we had today, and yeah, thank you so much for your patience and your time. And please, yeah, keep love the all the encouraging words people are saying and stuff, and keep your feedback and ideas coming. And have a great day.